Hi, this is Silvia and welcome back to my videos. In 2016 and 2017, I went to Italy for earthquake reconnaissance. There had been a series of earthquakes. Well, the first earthquake was on August 24th, 2016, that hit central Italy. And then there was a sequence of earthquakes in end of October and another major earthquake in January of 2017. And it was really part of a seismic swarm in the part of central Italy. I went with EERI earthquake reconnaissance twice. We met up with a group from different research universities and entities in Italy, and we visited many different sites. We went on middle of September, so right after or close enough after the 2016 August 24th first significant shake. And then we didn't go back until May of 2017, mainly because there were still many earthquake swarms and they had a really bad winter. And so we waited until things calmed down. So I wanted to show you one place that really hit me hard the first time that I went was the town of Castelluccio. I've already posted a video on a time lapse, and it's a town that had a little bit of damage after August 24th when we went to see it. Fell in love with the place, but then the whole town was destroyed after we went during the October events. Something that I can't really do in a paper. I wanted to do some exploring of my pictures, look at Google Maps. Google Map allows you to look back in time. And so I wanted to take you on a little research tour with me and just do a visual understanding of where things are and just tell the story of this one town, which really maybe is, and I don't know anything about it really, but just a visual story to see how it really hit me and see what we can learn about it. So the town is called Castelluccio di Norcia. So it's right there smack in the center of Italy. This is Rome right here. And I grew up just south of Rome at around right here in Valmontone. So this is near where I grew up, but not quite, and never heard of this town before, but it's actually a tiny little treasure in the center of Italy. So I'm going to turn off a few things that get in the way. And maybe I'll keep the places in mind. So Castelluccio is right here. And if we zoom in, so here's L'Aquila, which was really near the big epicenter of 2009 earthquake. I want to tell that story as well. But so if we go into Castelluccio, what you find out is, this is kind of neat because this is summertime. So right here is the Monte Vettore. This is one of the biggest and most famous mountains in Italy, and especially in the Apennines. And the Monte Vettore fault runs right through here. You can actually see the scarp right here, okay? And if we look at kind of shake maps from the different events to give us an idea of where things are. But let's zoom into the town and have a look at what it looks like right now. Okay, so here's Castelluccio. It's a tiny little mound, and I think it's kind of neat to be able to see it with Google Maps on, playing with the tilt, and not a perfect 3D rendering, but actually that's pretty cool. See, it's a tiny little mound in this huge valley with the Monte Vettore right here, the two peaks, okay? And there is the fault running right through there. This big valley here is famous, and that's what Castelluccio is famous for, because in this valley they grow ceci, and therefore, which is type, I don't know how you say it in English, and the fioritura, the flowering of this valley right here is gorgeous. You can look it up and Google it, and it's fascinating. So here you can see it. It's right in a tiny, it's pretty much a valley that's hidden. You have to go over mountains to get there. We actually came in from, I think somewhere, where were we? Oh, that's so cool. Anyways, we came in and we drove over the mound right here and came to Castelluccio. And it's kind of neat because you drive through this valley and you come up to this, and you climb up this mountain right here. A lot smaller than what's around it. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if you caught it, but there's this map of Italy. I think this is during the fascist period that it was made, and it's trees pretty much made into the shape of Italy. interesting to see. So if we go to Castelluccio right now, you see it. It's pretty much was destroyed, and this was just the whole top of the hill here was destroyed during the October and maybe part of the January event. When we went to see it, it was quite different. So if we go back in time and we go back, this is 2020, 2019, each year the quality of the pictures is a little different. But there's actually a really good rendering. If I go back to, okay, so here's a really good picture. This is August 2017. So over time, they removed a lot of the buildings as well. So this, you can see the debris that we didn't see nowadays, right? If we go to 2020, they've removed the debris from this mountain. Let's go back to now. You see they've cleared this debris. So if we want to look back in time to really see what buildings were damaged, let's go to, and you can never quite predict what the quality of the pictures is, but here it is in August of 2017. So this is a year after the earthquake, and you still have the debris from the individual buildings. Okay, and when I went, it was really neat because this town was here. So if we go back July, and if we manage, I know we're going to see now, you see a little bit more building. So a lot of the debris. So you see that the damage is not as bad as it looks right now, but everything here on top of the hill is gone. So if we go October, so, and this is just a really bad picture. This is actually the day of the most significant shake. So then things turn green. But here's, I know it's there. So this is August 24th, 2016. So this is before the big earthquake. Okay, here's a black and white picture that sometimes can give you better rendering. So, but I think if I go to, yeah. Okay, so interestingly, the one right before the event shows you what this town was laid out. Okay, and you can see there's buildings here. They look flat, but they're cute little buildings. And we're going to actually kind of walk around it. Major tourist town, and it's interesting, people still come here and they go for hikes just because of the views and the views of the Monte Vittorio. Remember how, I think I can turn this way. Let's turn the view there. Here's a good view of what this town looks like. So there's that valley. It's just this fantastic valley, and I keep on turning. Maybe I'm turning the wrong way again. Well, we found ourselves right in the mountains of the Monte Vittorio, okay? The Sibillini Mountains. There's Castelluccio there. We're looking south, towards south. Yeah, because there's north is down below, okay? So, oh, I could do this all day. Lots of snow right now in that area. Okay, so I'm going to go back, put this back north. Whoa. Okay, so I'm going to put north pointing up. Told you this was unscripted. And then we're going to go back to Castelluccio di Norcia. Okay, take us there. Sometimes just the taking you there can get kind of fun. So this is what it looked like before the earthquake. And lots of interesting buildings. So if you take a little walk. So this is the main square. As I told you, you drive in here. I think I can, if I zoom out a little bit, okay, and I see the person, it shows you what the roads look like, okay? You can get there either from the north or from the south, okay? Which is really in this center. But this is the main square that you're get to, and the buses would stop here, and you could see this town was full of life. Pretty impressive. Okay, now there's nobody there. Actually, you'll see if you watch the time lapses, there's cars that come in and people come for hikes, and photographers will come here and take pictures of everything. I'm guessing in the summertime was a little bit better than right now. When we came in, we came and parked right here, and we visited the town. But remember, these pictures were taken before the earthquake. So if we walk through, it's an interesting little town, because the first thing you see here is that there is some damage to these buildings. So this area has been been around for a while, okay? This is not the first earthquake that they feel. But if you look at things, it's interesting to look at the building stock, okay? Here's just a simple image right here. Here's some reinforced concrete buildings. So probably date in the 1960s and 70s when that kind of became the best way to build for earthquake, especially for seismic resistant design. But now you see these buildings here, and these are fascinating because you can see that these buildings right here, these 3 buildings, have been retrofitted and strengthened. Oh, it's fascinating. Yeah, different ways to zoom in is different pictures, okay? But as we walk through the town, it's good, and this is all over Italy nowadays and in the past, is to really see the mix of different building ages and therefore different seismic resistance. And so it's fascinating when you go on earthquake reconnaissances, you've got 2 buildings next to each other and one is completely collapsed and the other one has no damage, only because they've been rebuilt or retrofitted. Interesting, this building even has a hole here. Okay, so I'm going to take you on a tour of what we did, which means you need to go into this town right here, but we don't want to go down the hill. I want to go here, okay, and you go towards the town. This is what we did, okay? So this is the main, and the first circular area right here. You've got some exposed building structure here. You can actually see what they're made of. And then you've got these tiny little streets, which are kind of fascinating because the views from here are supposed to be amazing, okay? So I remember we stopped up here and we looked down and you see this, you would see this valley, but I guess not there yet. And so here you look at this building stock. Well, this guy's definitely going to go in the next earthquake. This structure here is interesting because it's an agriturismo, so it's a little hotel or hostel-like building. And they redid the facade, and then they've got this building structure in back. So who knows what this is really made of? Was it just an outside facade, or did they strengthen the whole building? If we go here, it's interesting because you start seeing some... Oh, those are just ties. Oftentimes, you'll actually see buildings. So, see, this is really old buildings that have just not been strengthened or anything. Maybe they'll put some stucco in front, but you can really see the different types of mortar that have been used through the ages. Okay, if we go down here, but crowded little town. So interesting, this building really caught my eye. Oh, you see, there's the valley. Okay, so there's a gorgeous view that you have here. Well, this building here was strengthened. It's really cool because I remember seeing it, and maybe I'll show you in my pictures, is these are metal doors. Because this place in the winter, shuts down because it just gets so cold and it's hard to access. And people will come here in the spring and summer and fall. So it's kind of really fascinating to see those really strong doors. We walk through here. There's the Monte Vettore right there in front of you. Okay, and there's the fault right across the way. Here's some other building typologies. I wish I knew more about these things, but I think it's just fascinating to view. And we could spend hours on these. Then we went in here, but we can't quite go that way, okay? So my pictures will show you that area. So this was just a good way to show you what this town looks like. I'm going to exit here, and I want to take you to the top here. I think we can go to the top. See, we walked around back and worked our way up to the top of the town, okay? So if I take this guy here, and I think you can come to the very top, okay? Look at these majestic views. So this is looking north. Oh, this is like a weather station and everything. Here's a building. Here's a much newer structure attached to an older structure. And this building right here fascinating me because it's just so old. And not only that, but it just really had all types of ages that you could see in the different stuccos. Well, this building collapsed during the October event. Okay, so if I'm going to pull out my pictures, So this is what it looked like before. If we exit, again, now we go back to October. I think it was 2018 that has it. Oh, there it is. See, all that came down. Okay. There's the very top of the hill. This is where we just drove in and we went down the street. And you could see these were some of those buildings that we saw that we weren't quite sure about what they were made of. Oh, and there's the valley. Okay, so I'm going to pull out my pictures. Okay, so this was us driving in. This is in middle of September. So we're 14 kilometers away from Castelluccio, and you've just got these majestic mountains. What was fascinating about driving through these mountains is the many rock falls that we saw that you could see. Where you can see here, there's old ones, but then we can also see fresh ones. So definitely the earth shook, and you don't just feel it in building structures, but you see it kind of in the ground there. This road was closed, so we actually had to go the other way. And it was just such beautiful country there. And it's just amazing that you're in this highly dense country, densely populated country, and there's this just majestic mountains. You can see cracks on the road. You see here some pretty fresh rock fall here. And you remember, we're pretty close to the earthquake. Oh, so here's the view of that forest that looks a lot more populated. Oh, what I wanted to do is also look at here it is. So here's Castelluccio, and here's that forest. Here's the road that we took. Here's a gorgeous view of a couple of things. So here's Castelluccio up on the top, and there's Italy right there. I forgot, there's so much to Google Maps, so let's go back to Google Earth. And what I wanted to do is look at what the impact was and how much. This is upside down. Let's go back north, up. Okay, I have to use that because Italy's kind of at an angle. So I grew up thinking that that was north and south was along the span of Italy, but that's because I didn't pay much attention in school. Okay, so if I look at the earthquake before I went, so here's just lots of data about it, and I've lost Castelluccio, so I've got to turn some things down. So I like just looking at the, epicenter. So Castelluccio is right here, okay? And the epicenter was south of here. These are, I think it's the different towns that we visited. Yeah, I've got a lot of things open. Yeah, so those were the places that I visited. Because then this is going to show you where I took pictures as well. And then if we look at, so that was the epicenter, and if we look at the contours of intensity, Castelluccio actually felt, so this is the August 24th event, so here's the epicenter. So it definitely felt quite a bit of shaking, okay? It's within between 8 and 9 of intensity scale, all right? So then, but if you go back to the bigger ones, so that was that event. If I turn off that one and I turn on the large one, the magnitude 6.6, okay, I'm going to turn on epicenter. So the epicenter was closer to Norcia. Oh, so there's Castelluccio. Here's Norcia, but there's a mountain that you have to cross to get there. Here's the epicenter of the second event, so much closer and east of where we were looking at. If you look at the intensity contours, again, even for this earthquake, now Castelluccio is in the heart of, this is really the heart of the most damage from all the events. If I look at the shake map from the magnitude 6.1, October 26th, and if I look at the intensity, it was, lower intensity, but still Castelluccio was within those contours. So if I turn on all the contours, you can see that Castelluccio is pretty much in the heart of, this whole area. And same with Norcia, which is the bigger city that's right here, really felt a lot of impact from all the different events, okay? So that's something interesting to look at. Maybe what I'm trying to do in this video is just show you the different things that you can look at from an earthquake. Okay, so now if I switch over to my pictures, I'm gonna, not that one, okay? So here we were driving into this town. I mean, isn't that just gorgeous? Okay, so this is, what is it? September 15th, 2016, okay? you could see it still looks like a nice little town. It's September, so not as populated, and this drive was just so gorgeous. You just go down and over. Here it is looking up to it. Look at how many little buildings it has, but they're really just arroccati. They're literally, and so here you can see some newer structures here, and we actually went to visit these on the right-hand side. Okay, here you can see this crane, because they were trying to strengthen the bell tower after this earthquake. So here we've arrived. So this was that main, I can't turn here, but you can see we're looking up into the street that we went to, and things were closed. So we needed a permit to actually go into the town. And you can see people are working there, and we'll show you the pictures. Here's an image that I like taking pictures of posters when I went to different places there to kind of show you what this place is represented and what they look like. And so here's the first square there. You can see there's a lot of tile. And so the interesting thing about this tile roofing, it's important to look at chimneys and tiles, whether you can see they've moved. And you can often see it because it's cleaner or dirtier, and this is not a perfect picture of that. To be able to see it. But that gives you a good idea of the level of shaking, because even if the building has no cracks or anything, there's actually tile that has moved. So this is a nice panoramic of, this is that main square. And so you could see things actually looked pretty good for this town. It's so sad that we weren't able to go and visit it afterwards, mainly because it was all destroyed. But it stayed with me. There's Erica. Ready. This is such an Italian thing. Okay, so here you can see these older structure here was, I don't think this was damaged during the earthquake. You can see when there's grass growing, you can see this roof here. So this buildings here were pretty abandoned, it looked like. So kind of pity, because it's such nice real estate, right? These are the firemen. So the Vigili del Fuoco were really the big security system at the time. They are the ones that actually bring buildings to safety, to strengthen them after an event so that people can actually walk the streets. So they were showing us the full gear, and this is actually the face shield. So it was interesting is that they come from different parts of Italy. So you could see here that they're from Perugia. So that's not so far, but they're not very local. People came from all over Italy to help. So here's what they look like. And so here we are as a team going into looking at these buildings. So you could see that they were repairing this tower here. There's some rubble. This is the building. Actually, this is the agriturismo that we saw earlier. So the agriturismo did actually really well because this was a business, right? So a lot of these regions and towns, people just come for the summer home. And so you don't really want to invest too much into that. Or sometimes you do. It depends on where you're at. Sometimes it's something inherited, so it's really, you don't have the resources to take care of it. But here's a business that invested in strengthening and retrofitting. Interesting, they even have this thing right here. That's to catch the snow so it doesn't go whoosh. That's so fascinating. I love the blue doors on that building. And that building doesn't look like it's in very good shape. But here is a building here right next to some rubble. And this is pretty new rubble that actually did really well. I'd be curious to see how it did. Oh, we could see how it did during the later events. So if we go here, let's go back to Castelluccio. Okay. And we go to 2018. So that agriturismo was this building right here, I'm pretty sure. No, because that was the street. So here's the agriturismo right here, and you could see that it's still standing. How do I know? Because I remember this building as we were coming up here. This was that building with the blue doors, and then this is the rubble next to it, and this is the agriturismo. So here's a building that it performed really well during an earthquake, but what's the point when nobody else does, right? And so you can see here that these were the newer structures that I'll show you. They were still up as well. And so as much as maybe it wasn't 100% of the building stock, but this is definitely looks more than 50%, But if you don't have everybody retrofitting, there's almost no point in investing your own funds into that. So here's that building, beautiful and standing. There's the campanile. You could see that it was strengthened in the past. You could see that there's different types of tile here, or of brick, which means that it must have had some damage, and then they rebuilt the top. So you could, these things to me really tell a story of the many events that this region has felt. And it's not the last ones here. So here's, you can see debris on the ground, but here's some buildings you can see have definitely been retrofitted. You can see things that have been retrofitted, they're still standing there. And I bet if we go back to now, those are probably still up and standing. I know how I can tell when where this picture was taken from. So, I can at least guess. If I go to my Google Maps and turn on where my pictures were taken from. I even did a thing here. Yeah, this was cool. I try to do this. I took a lot of pictures in that spot, I guess. So this is, let's look at that picture. Oh, that was the view. Okay. But this spot right here, you could look up, and those are the buildings that are standing. Okay. So you can almost predict how a building is going to do by just having a quick look. So here is where you can see that there's no damage to the building, but a lot of roof tile came down, which is kind of a good sign, right? It tells you, hey, there was significant shaking in this building, but the building did well, but the tiles came down, and that's fine. I mean, we want to do a better job because these can hurt people and cause some damage, but it's always a good sign for things doing better. So here's one where, oh, this is so beautiful. There's some new structures right there. You can see it. So this is such a nice town that people really did their best to take care of it, mainly because it's a tourist center. So it brings in business and resources. So here's this. Oh, this is, remember I showed you this building here. So this was corded off, but we actually managed to go through because we were escorted. So here's that building. Then in the building here on the left, these buildings have been strengthened and retrofitted, and you could see it, that they're doing very, very well. Okay. Here's an older building, on the other hand, that you could see the crack right through there. So there's no load path here. Well, there's a load path from top to bottom, but there's a fascinating crack right through that top. So what happens? This building is still standing, but guess what? When the bigger shake came by later in the end of October, there's no question that this building came down, or at least a good chunk of it. Look at this. Fascinating. This is, I think, the same building. And you can see here, there's almost like an added penthouse. There's crack through here. So this is no framing system in these walls at all. We can almost look at the coordinates is where I took this picture from, but you can see this crack went right through. So it'd be neat to be able to go inside the building and see what happened. But here's the view of the valley. It's gorgeous. And there's always fascinating by how I was able to zoom in with the old iPhone. Here's just an old wall that you could see that there's some damage now, but just aged through time. That was the doors. That building was pretty locked up for the winter, and especially since the town was closed up. So if we look at Google Maps now, or Google Now, that building there must be this building right here. Yeah, because you see that's where I took all those pictures. So it's this building right here that is definitely still standing. Oh yeah, because if we put the little guy, I think we can put the little guy, yep, right here. Oh, that's so cool. You can see the picture I took. But a little too close for comfort here. What's going on? Okay, so there's that building right there. Yep. That you could see, and the building next to it. So I wonder if we look at this building, it's really handy to look at Google Maps because it tells you what the buildings look like before the earthquake. So if we look at the building next to it, is it still there or not? So yeah, that building is also still there. So you can see from this picture back there is the Monte Vettore, right? And so if you go to the next picture, there's a whole fascinating story. I put it in one of my videos. So this is pretty much the fault. And I think now, if you look, there's a lot more opening through here. Maybe we'll see if Google Earth has that. But this is the Sentiero delle Fate. There's an interesting story about it because the ferries the story goes that the ferries would come into town at night and party with the people and the folks. And then as soon as the sun would come out, they would have to run back. And these ferries had hooves feet. And so one morning they just kind of got caught up in the celebrations that the sun came out, and they rushed back. And you could see a cloud of smoke from the hoofs running through this sentiero. Well, for me, it's almost like, there must have been an earthquake, and they actually saw the puff of smoke, and that was the story that's associated with that puff of smoke. So this is cool. So this website, it shows you every day they do a time lapse. So this is, it's snowing. So I showed you this already for a different day, but I was hoping to be, oh no, it's cloudy. Oh, this is so cool though. One cloudy day, so we can't see the Vettore at all. See, but you can see a couple buildings still standing there and the weather station. Oh, every day it's different. See how you can see little people coming in and going out? They come in, do a little bit of touring, and they go back out. So this kind of shows you where what our path was, and so we saw those houses. But now the next pictures, what we did is we went around, looked at this new construction, actually went into somebody's house right here, and then we made it to the top of the hill. So let's go back to my pictures. So this was the view. Here we are go up. This video actually told us some interesting stories as well. So there's the Faglia del Vettore up there. There's the beautiful valley. Here's buildings. So here you could see, interesting. So pretty nice stuff going on there. But you could see the tilt of the building walls. And so this was done to improve the seismic resistance of these buildings, is to have walls thicken up as they reach the ground. That was actually put into the building code. If you go to Norcia, you see a lot of this. So look at this great little spot right here. So here is, this block right here is probably all the same buildings, and you can actually see the different stages of retrofit that they have done. So here's a building that you can see it's definitely been retrofitted, and we go up and you can almost see, just two different facades of the same building structure been done at different times. So this is what Castelluccio would look like in the winter time, and then at the bottom in the summertime. Fascinating. What a great picture there. So it gives us a good idea of falling in love with this town. Here's a little panoramic that I did. Look at that old building there. Well, that one's definitely gone. There's no question of it. The one underneath it looks a little bit better. So let's see if we find it. So here's that new construction there, but then everything on the other side of it is gone. So interesting that grass is growing back up again there. Okay, let's go back to the pictures. So here's my panoramic. Now we've come to the other side. Now we're almost on the northern side of it. And so here's the work that was being done pretty much right before the event. So you could see, let's see if we can find some interesting details. But it almost looks like, look at this, there was actually strengthening going on the inside. So here's kind of a bummer story, because these people invested time and effort into their buildings. But again, as I've already mentioned it before, so this is an outer wall, and there's the inner wall, because it gets really cold there in the wintertime and hot in the summertime. If you don't retrofit the whole town, then there's no point. But eventually in time, these buildings will still be standing, hopefully. This is us going up. There's the Monte Vittorio right there. And this is a neat little center. You know, this is on the east side of the town. A bit of work had been done to strengthen this town. So it's kind of a bummer, you know, and we noticed about 50% of the territory collapsed. And so we see you got these newer structure on the left, but I wonder, or maybe this just needs a big good wash. I don't know enough about these things. But you could see that they were still working on the retrofit here. As you go up, now you've got this other building here, on the other hand, that hasn't been touched, and maybe nobody even lives in it. This is a view from above. So this was looking at the back side. So we made it to the top now. There's a square where the big parking lot is and where the buses would park. I think that takes you to Norcia, I wonder, or Viso, yeah. So here's a view from the very top. And there's a Vittoria again. Now you've got at the top these old buildings that hadn't been strengthened. And so, well, you got some newer ones, but then this building here, pretty sure it had a bit of damage. There it is. Oh, I love this picture. It's gorgeous. Kind of sad, gorgeous. But this building can't imagine not having come down new. But look at this. You've got a different addition at the top. Just this top story is a different structure than it is in the bottom. But all it's doing is really adding some significant weight to only make things worse on the bottom half. You can see the crack through here. So this is just a gorgeous picture. Here's a panoramic of that building. Now, if we go to Google Maps, that's what's not there anymore. So there's that road that came in, and it's this building right here. Now let's go see this is now, right? So this is 2017, that building. So this is that weather station that we had behind us. This building is still standing, but not this building here. And so we go back to my pictures. The weather station is right behind me, I believe. Let me see. Oh, great shot. See, there's that weather station. Whatever is here, this buildings are still there. This building is gone. This whole building block is gone. That's just, I mean, that is a cover photo there. You can see just the different times that things were done as well. Look at those significant cracks right through whatever this is. This is an interesting picture that you could spend the time looking at the different buildings and just different details of different things. I don't know. As we go down the steps, I don't think we're going to go. I hope we don't go down the steps. There's damage there. And so here's structures that have been retrofitted. They're standing, but you can see the pots have fallen over, as well as some tiles, right? Roof tile. So this is a really good sign to me when I go and look at what's out there. I love your creativity of the people that live there. But, the tiles show you that there was definitely significant movement, but the buildings did their job. And so it's just different details of it here. Oh, this was just so pretty. Oh, I went by too fast. You could see some, oh, here's a nice detail of a retrofit that was done when you try to tie the floor diaphragms to the walls. Here's some old stuff that definitely must have come down. So this poor town is such a mix of retrofitted and unretrofitted structure, which therefore gives you this result. Some buildings are standing, some buildings are not. Almost predictable to the T. Here's an old building. Oh, this was a nunnery, I believe, that became an orphanage or oratorio. It's like a youth center. Here's the church at the very top. And I wonder what happened. Look at that view. So here's some retrofit details. So this is, trying to think. Let's see if we find that church up at the top. So if we pull out Google Earth. So we went through here. The church would have been at right about here. And I don't see anything that looks like it could have been a church. So this is the main square of the church. Oh, it is the church. So there's a picture of it. See, there's just not enough strengthening, not enough retrofit being done to this church. And look at this arch here. Oh, I think it's in one of my pictures, maybe. Well, in my pictures, it was still up. So here's this building that's retrofitted. So what I learned was, why is it so important to these churches, and what did the damage to the churches represent? Well, the churches are part of the history of the family traditions. So people are born and they get baptized in the church. Then they have their first communion and confirmation. Then they get married. And this gets passed on generation to generation to generation, especially in places like this where people have lived for a long time. And so the churches represent the community. They represent the history. And that's why they're pretty important, just because of the many milestones that have been gone through the years. So here's beautiful view from that. So that's not there anymore. This is the strengthening work that we're doing. So there was definitely damage from that earthquake. Look at this crack right through here. And then this just couldn't stand the bigger earthquake. So it was a neat, interesting detail of the mechanisms that they were doing. But, you know, those are little details that you can deal for moderate earthquakes, but not the significant earthquake that followed. So this whole building block here is gone. And these are probably still there. So if we look, it's probably here what's to the left and right here. Not 100% sure, but oh, could be over here. So there's some buildings in this area that are still standing. Ah, what a nice shot. Macelleria Coccia. So here's some old building that must have definitely come down. And then here's some newer systems. And even, you know, so here's an earthquake, the first one, the August one, that damaged these old buildings, but not these newer buildings at all. And probably even the October event didn't touch these significantly. But the rest of, so I think when we came, it was like 6% of the building inventory had damaged or collapsed. Well, probably by the end of October, at least 50% was damaged and collapsed. So these were just, of course, this was going to go. Oh, this is the building. We gone back to the beginning. Remember the blue awning, or the blue, I don't know what you call these things. This is, we're back to there. This building was damaged right during that event, and it's definitely gone and collapsed at this point. But it fascinated me. So they tried to, you know, it's got some sort of framing system, but that didn't work right. Look at this crack that goes right through here. And there's a picture of the valley again, just how beautiful. Here's a view going back down to the main square. Oh, I got artistic. What a pretty kitty. So this is looking at the valley going north. So this is just gorgeous territory that is just a big loss just to everyone and the heritage of the country. Interesting just details. So if anybody was interested in learning how these things are made, I don't know what the heck that is at all. I mean, yeah, it's hollow clay tile, but it looks like it was actually just chipped out, not really during the earthquake, because there's no debris on the ground. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and that's it. Just I wanted to make sure I put this in the books. Thank you. Bye-bye.